everybody. Welcome to our show. My name is Betsy Freeman. This is our first show of 2022. We had to have a change of cast today because unfortunately a couple of our friends are dealing with some other things today. But I'm very blessed to have three amazing guests and friends with me, Erika, Bronwell, Sevana, Henry, and Flo. I'm going to ask Flo, why don't you go first and introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about your interest in this topic.
Never
All good.
fails. Honestly. So let's rewind, restart. So my name is Flo. I'm an artist. Music is my passion and my interest in this topic. Other than music and travel and food, I'm a foodie. I love people. And really, there's no other way to live life than live it with people and just be blessed with rich friendships and relationships. That's just the best way to do life, connection. So I'm excited and all about this topic. Yeah, thank you for
awesome. Thank you, Flo. Sevana.
Hi, I'm Sevana, and thank you so much for inviting me at the last minute. The topic of female friendship interests me because I have a lot to say about this topic and a lot that I want to share and what I feel is important and what I feel is toxic when it comes to friendships.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate we're going to learn a lot from each other today, I think, and I hope our audience feels free to chime in and comment. I see there's a couple of you watching already. This is a hot topic. It's not an easy one. Erika, let's hear from you.
Sure. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Erika, and I have a lot to say on the topic as well. And I'm also really excited to hear what the other ladies have to say about their experiences because, always learning and growing, and I like to learn and see it from different perspectives.
Amen. Thank you. So my name is Betsy. I'm coming to you live from Florida this week. This is the first time I've been on Eastern time doing this show, and all y'all are on Pacific time in California, from my understanding. I've been really blessed with good friends since I was young. And I have learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I've learned some things, and I'm still always learning how to be a better friend and how to trust that friendships can always be repaired and restored. And it's a daily walk experience. So Melinda Mages wanted to be with us today. And she helped Erika. She and Erika wrote the questions for today, which are just fantastic. So let's start off with this question. Erika, I'm going to go to you first. What makes a great friend? And you can answer that question first if you want to, but here's the sub questions. Is a friend that checks in and listens and is kind, is that a great friend? Or can a friend still be great if you hardly hear or see if you hardly see them or hear from them? Can they still be a great friend? What do you think?
Well, I think it depends on the person and the circumstance. Like I have quite a few friends that are all over the world and in different states. And even though they're far away, we're still good friends. And whenever I meet up with them, it's like no time has passed. And there's like this understanding that we won't see each other very often, but we're still great friends. And then there are other friends where, I've met them more recently. And because of that, if too much time passes and there is not enough reciprocity, I don't necessarily have the time or energy nor the drive to really cultivate that friendship. So it might actually fade away if that other person doesn't make an effort to kind of, to keep it going. But I would always like to stay friends with people as long as I can, as long as they're, have relatively good values and kind person and I am inspired by them.
Those are great answers. Thank you. Sevana?
I think, you don't have to check in like every day or so to be a good friend, but you should check in every once in a while. Like me, I'm not really extroverted. I'm more introverted. But if someone like checks in on me, of course that would really make my day. And you can still be a good friend if you don't see one another very often, because some of us, like each of us, have our own life paths, and some of us might grow apart, because we move on to other places and greener pastures and such. But eventually we can like meet up again sometime, and like maybe our paths will cross at some point.
That's good. Yeah, I'll say, great friends are priceless.
Mhm.
But a great friend to me could fall in either one of those categories and sometimes goes in and out. I've had wonderful friends who, in a time when I really needed it, were with me just about every day, or roommates, fantastic roommates. And sometimes that season just comes to an end for any number of reasons. And you could be left with a feeling, or I've left other people with a feeling of abandonment, or just that this attachment is now, it feels like it's been cut or whatever. But I get very attached to people, maybe not super quickly, but if I have a long conversation with you at any point, probably I'm always going to remember you, and I'd always want to hear from you again. And I always want to repair anything that's been harmed. So the check-in is really important. If you're thinking about someone and you don't know where they're at, like that's a big part of just, but I try to go with my own instinct on whether to, I feel like I have a pretty good intuition whether a person really wants to hear from me right now or not. It's not perfect, but check-ins can really be life-saving in terms of your emotional health, getting checked in on at the right time. Flo.
Yeah, like I love what you ladies all said, and I think check-ins are super important. I think one of the rules, or guidelines I've learned in life is, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I've gone through periods where out of the blue, somebody will text me and say, I've been thinking about you. How are you doing? And that just makes my heart melt. I'm like, they were thinking of me. So when somebody comes to my mind or just keeps rotating through my mind, it's almost like an instinct, like connect with that person. Maybe they need to talk to you. Maybe they need to hear from you, right? So I think checking in is important, but everybody's different. I have some friends where I know that they still love me, but they're in their own little world, right? And so it's not that they don't love, but they're the type of people that you need to stay in touch with them, or where every 6 months I see them and it feels like a day hasn't passed that our friendship is that amazing. So every friendship and relationship is different. Every person's different. And what makes a good friend, I think someone who unconditionally loves you with strengths, weaknesses, quirks, whatever. They've got your back, and you could be 100% yourself with them. They're the people where if you need to go to the hospital at 3:00 in the morning, if you need to get to the airport at 3:00 in the morning, when you're doing an ugly cry, they're there with you. No judgment. They love you. They've seen you thick and thin, ups and downs. That's a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Well said.
Question 2. This is really, I'm just learning so much about the three of you, which is a lot of fun. What are some of the greatest blessings in female friendships, Sevana?
Oh, just supporting each other and having each other's back is a great blessing. And also having someone to, like, if you have boy problems, you can you can talk to your girlfriends about that. And just having sometimes having girls time with your friends always helps. And even if you all have like different passions or interests, just understanding the female mind with one another really helps in friendships.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Erika.
I think the great part about female friendship is, I think women, I can't speak for all women, but at least the women in my life, I find I've had a lot of generous women in my life who are very giving, and they inspired me to be a good friend. And as I've gotten older, I've learned what makes a good friend, at least in my book. A good friend is someone who, remembers your birthday. Or if they don't remember your birthday, they say happy belated birthday and they make it up to you. Like, I have a gift for you, so whenever you're free, I want to meet up with you. Or oh, let's go out, let's go get a cupcake for your birthday. Like, just something thoughtful. They remember you on Christmas. They send you at least a Christmas card. And they're there for you in the dark and the happy times. I feel like that's the best kind of friend. And a good kind of friend, like you said, accepts you for who you are, but they also don't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. And that, I think that is what makes an exceptional friend, is somebody. I always feel like I have this one, she's my best friend from middle school, and she never minces words with me. She always tells me like it is and does not filter. She just tells me, and I appreciate it. And I never am offended by what she says because I respect her opinion. So I think that has to be earned. So I think if you don't know someone that well, if you give that kind of advice, they may want to smack you or not be your friend anymore. But if you really know them, then you've earned that level of honesty, and then you could tell them how it is, and then they appreciate the honesty.
That's a really good point. I like that. And that's really biblical too. There's a scripture about that. Wounds from a friend could be trusted, which means, we're not out to wound our friends, but sometimes our friends need to hear something from us that we don't even want to say. But who those friends are and who you allow them to be could change over time. Flo?
I'd say with my closest friends in the world, it's like there's no such thing as like TMI. Like we are like the onion layers have been shed. Like we speak our heart, speak our mind. There's no judgment. It's like you can like come out of like, if you guys have had like a sleepover or whatever, or your friend is like, I need to talk to you, come over, and you both have bedhead, but there's just no judgment. There's no such thing as TMI. It's an open book. And from that close inner circle group of friends, I have told them, and they've told me too, I'm like, I want honesty from you. Because if you can't get honesty from your closest friends or family, who can you get it from, right? So there may be some times where that tough love, they say something I don't really like or I don't want to hear, but I, digest it and marinate, and coming from them, I'd rather hear that truth versus having people around you who are like, they say yes to whatever you want them to say yes to. Do you know what I mean? So I love that those people are true blue and will give you the truth because they love you and they want to see you reach your potential. They want you to be the best person you can be. I love it. Yeah.
To me, the biggest blessing of friendships is the ones that do last over a long period of time. Because the people that know you well and have known your ups and downs, I love making new friends. But the ones that have really known me for many years and who still want to spend time with me, there's all kinds of sayings about this. I won't quote it. It's cheesy. But, I don't want, one of my friends used to say, I don't have a hierarchy of friends. And I thought that was really smart thing to say. But then we all have to choose who to spend our time with. People move in and out of Los Angeles constantly. And so your circle of friends might seem to be changing constantly, especially like the younger you are, the more it seems to change. But of course, with the pandemic and all of this other stuff, we just got, and then careers just change. I mean, we're people that like to be in the music world and in the entertainment world, and we like to travel. So then there's opportunities to do things that move us around. And I think the biggest blessings are the people that, and this is true for me too, that when, something good happens for me, they're genuinely happy. And when something sad happens for me, they're genuinely sad. And they don't hold it against me that I can't be there for everything, or that I don't know what they need at a given time when they haven't told me. Because God knows, if I know what their need is, at the very least, I'll pray for them or try to help them find someone that they can talk to if I can't talk to them myself. Because I love conversations, but I also have to work for a living. So that's a thing. Okay. Blessings. Okay, so the next flip side of the coin, which we should talk about, what are some of the greatest challenges faced in female friendships? Who wants to take that one first?
I think one of the greatest challenges is agreeing to disagree, because sometimes you will friends like can like get into arguments about certain things, and like in the end they have to like come to a conclusion. They friends can't always agree. Sometimes it could either lead to making the friendship stronger, or it could lead to a fallout. So I feel like that's one of the risks you're gonna take when with a friend. And also this is something I've learned the hard way. Sometimes people really try to take advantage of you, and because I remember having a friend who would like text me constantly and call me constantly. Like every 10 minutes she would say, "Hey Sevana, can you call me?" And I would say yes, and I'd answer the phone, and she'd just be like, "I'm depressed," and I say like, "Oh, it's like tell me about your problems." But if you keep getting the same thing, I kept getting the same thing over and over, like thinking she would get better, but she didn't. So in the end, it was I just had to let her go.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're not called to be her therapist, right?
Mhm.
A friend is not supposed to be, and you shouldn't, if you're not gonna have a therapist or a support group or a church group or some group to listen to you that can help support you as a group, then you got to make sure you got multiple friends that you're calling, right? Because one friend cannot be your only person to call when you're really depressed, and having someone to listen to you does not heal depression in itself. That's really important point.
Yeah.
Okay. Erika?
I wanted to piggyback on what Sevana said. Is I think some of us people, not to toot my horn, but just any woman, like we have this reservoir of generosity within us to be a really good friend, to listen, to pick up the phone right away, or to answer a text when it comes in. But if we don't have good boundaries, it's very easy for us to be, taken advantage of. And I don't think that people mean to take advantage. I think it's more they're in a desperate situation and they need us. But when it happens so often, what ends up happening is after we get off the phone, they feel better, but we feel awful. And that kind of giving is not the kind of giving that I think us should do in a friendship where we're depleted to our own expense. Like, yes, we might feel a little drained sometimes if somebody feels really low. And if that happens every now and then, it's not a huge deal. But if it's the rule and it's happening daily or weekly, then there's a limit to where we're like, how much do I love myself enough to not want to be in misery day in, day out because of this one friend? And if we want our happiness,
lean on someone else, right? Then you have to go find someone else to talk to about your friend. So then you're bringing someone else, and it just becomes a chain of
this vicious cycle.
Right. We don't need to do that. And it's okay. I mean, I had a friend once, he brought this up. It was really important. In college, I had some really good friends that I leaned on, who were really strong, just really strong, mature people. And especially for being as young as we were. And one of them one day, finally, when she overheard me say something, Flo has heard me talk about myself in a way that isn't pleasant at times. And she said, and this gal said to me, "Oh, for heaven's sake." She finally just got tired. She was very patient to a point, and then she was like, "Oh, for heaven's sake." And it really brought me up short in a really positive way, actually, because I was so full of myself. All I could see was my own problems at that moment. I did not realize the effect it was having on her because she wasn't showing it in her face. She wasn't saying anything impatient. I didn't know what I was doing. And then she was like, "Okay, I've had enough." I was like, oh,
that's hilarious, because I think that's what all of us want to say, but we just sometimes we're like, I don't want to be that friend that's like,
there's nothing wrong
taking
with
the
that.
call.
Even God has limits to his patience in certain regards. We don't have to go into detail on that, but like, okay. What Erika
That's
said,
hilarious, though. If someone said, "For heaven's sake," I'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I feel embarrassed. Like,
I was too young, and it was like a new experience for me being in that dark place. So like I didn't, I just was so unaware, and it really helped me to understand flow, challenges, and friendships. Let's go back to that initial topic.
Oh yeah, you know what? I think from what I've heard from guys and also females, and this isn't necessarily your close friends, but maybe females you're getting to know, sometimes cattiness or the mean girl syndrome kind of thing. I call the mean girl syndrome, or
Mhm.
being so over emotional that easily taking offense, and because you're easily taking offense, it's like silent treatment, and you're like, I sense something is wrong, but I can't get you to communicate to let me know what's wrong, right? From what I've heard from the opposite sex, and also some other females who are like, oh, why are like girls like that? It's more of a female thing versus a male thing. Guys can have arguments and then like half an hour later, like, let's go watch football. You know what I mean? Or let's go play video games, right? But females, like, yeah, right? So some of that stuff can, with certain personalities, can be challenging, but I think you kind of find a way to screen and suss out who are the people who are going to be your close friends, and close friends will be mature enough to not do that or deal with it in that way. But yeah, so
That was
Agreed.
way harsh, Ty. Mhm.
I feel like this is a really good topic. Could we explore this a little bit more? Because I feel like we hit the jackpot on this topic.
Yeah, the challenge is okay. I have a little more to say too. I think what really came to me was when I have a friend who is I've only known them for probably, like, let's say less than 5 years or so. And which is, that's a good chunk of time for a friendship. That's a great time for a friendship to last. But that doesn't mean that we know everything about each other, depending on, how close we've been. And it doesn't mean that we understand each other necessarily all that well. And every once in a while, I get the feeling that one of my friends is, like Flo said, is giving me the silent treatment or cutting me off their social media or something to like teach me some sort of lesson. And I understand that to a point, but we're not teenagers. So if you want me to learn something, please let me know what it is. I need to know exactly what I did wrong. And it won't hurt my feelings if you say it in a gentle and kind manner that lets me know that you actually care about the friendship and that you're not just upset. If you want to be upset, just take your time and let me know when you're ready to talk. I'll talk to you.
I agree. And I was going to say that with communication, I would shy away from texting certain messages because I've lost friendships over ambiguous text messages that were misperceived
Girl.
as
Oh, yeah.
extremely rude. And that was not my intention. There was no emoji attached, so it just made it seem that much worse. And I was like, oh, darn, why didn't I put an emoji? And the damage was done. And the person would not answer my calls. And then I was like, okay, I guess that friendship's gone. And it could have been avoided if I had just called them and said, hey, like, let's talk and all that. So I definitely would do it differently next time.
yeah, but you know what, Erica, like, and I agree with you in the way that, like, yes, like, I think all of us as human beings, like, texting, especially for serious like argument or whatever, um vocal inflections are so important with like talking on the phone or in person. But I think with that other person, which is why I love what Betsy said, communication is key. If they really, I've come to realize this, if someone really values my friendship, and I may have accidentally said something, like, please, if you care enough, call me and be like, hey, did I get this the right way? Because this kind of upset me or this kind of hurt me. And I could be like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. I would never meet. You know what I mean? If you value my friendship enough, then let's hash this out. You know what I mean? Let's make sure, right? I think that's maturity and that's proper communication.
That's
right?
true, Flo. I think
Awesome.
that is the next level of evolution. I haven't gotten to that level of maturity yet, but that's the goal.
Yeah, I've experienced fallouts that were like that, especially with communicating through text. Yeah, and like, but there was like recently, there was this one guy I was friends with on social media for a long time, and he was kind of quirky. But I said something that like a lot of his like friends back east like didn't agree with, and I tried to assure him, that's not what I meant, but he was like, yeah, but you made my friends feel uncomfortable, so bye. And I even tried calling him, but he purposely didn't pick up, and next thing I knew, he blocked me from social media. And well, the weird thing is he blocked me from like Instagram, but he didn't block me from Facebook or Snapchat. But still, whenever I sent him a message, like he would just ignore it.
It's like we live in a cancel culture where if
Yeah.
someone makes one little mistake, you're done. You're not in my life anymore.
That's why I'm against cancel culture. That's why I think cancel culture is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Agreed.
definitely unhealthy. And that's exactly why, sorry guys, I'm not going to mince words, but I will not spend time on people like that. It's just, it's exhausting. It's so time is too precious. It's a waste of my energy. I only want to spend time and focus it on quality people who are going to love me the way I love them, who are worthy of my love and my time. That kind of ridiculousness, bye.
Right.
Done. Don't have time for it.
Very true. I think it's an insecurity. Some people, it gives them this false sense of power to cancel someone, saying you're dead to me, I block you. It gives them that false sense of like I'm in control, but really they're being cowardly. They don't want to have the conversation of maturity and say, hey, you know, I did not like what you said, and it's going to take me a little bit to heal from that. And, you know, that's all they had to say, but instead they would rather just let their silence do the talking, which is kind of manipulative. And
it's totally
makes us feel
manipulative.
awful. And it was a mistake that could be easily corrected that turned into this huge fiasco.
Life is about learning.
Yeah, you know, we've all
It's
done things we're not
perfect.
proud of.
Right? Who's perfect? And we learn from those mistakes. Like that's being passive aggressive and manipulative. And on
Yeah.
top of that, like from my perspective, it's like whether it be cancel culture or whatever, I think at the end of the day, it's like, can we not give each other room and space to like grow and forgiveness? Because when people want to be passive aggressive with like not talking to you, blocking you, it's almost like holding on to bitterness, right? It's lack of forgiveness. And from my perspective, it's like when you do what you can to toss the tennis ball back in their court, to call them, to text them, to be like, hey, I'm sorry about this. I hope we can work this out, you know, but you move on. And they're still like thinking, oh my goodness, this is probably bothering her. And it's like, no, sorry, I've moved on. I sought your forgiveness. I wanted to, but if they can't see how precious and great you are, they lost out because you're moving on. You've met other great people and they lost out on your great friendship. So that's a perspective that I've taken where it's like, sorry, like, bye. I tried, but you know what I mean?
Right.
You know,
So
do you think
good.
it could go the other way? Because I think what happens is we're like, okay, I only have time for friends that have grace. I only have time for friends who are a certain way. But then it could go the other way where you're like, I don't need friends because I have been let down so much. Then it can go the other way where the person becomes isolated because they have been let down so much that they don't want to rely on anyone and they don't want anyone to rely on them. It kind of almost creates a sort of selfishness sometimes. And I think I fell into that pattern for a little bit.
I agree. I think, well, I know that, you know, even in this year, but also there's been in previous years times when I felt so wounded and so misunderstood and so judged. I actually, at one point, I got my Facebook all the way down to 100 people at one point because I really, and 60 of those people were my family. So, because I just couldn't cope with people taking what I said and then applying it to their entire understanding of me. Whatever I posted, that was all they knew and all they understood, or most of it, because it creates such an incomplete picture of who I really am. But also because, you know, I wasn't 100% justified in every behavior and action in that time. There were things that I did that weren't good, but I also knew that my heart was in a good place and that I was really doing the best that I could. And so I just wanted to find ways where I could make Facebook a happy place every time I logged into it and make sure that it was a happy place. Those are my safe people. It didn't last for long because I hurt a bunch of people's feelings and they let me know. You know, they let me know this is a guy who have gone too far. And so, you know, but every day with Facebook, I mean, there are people that I limit how much they can see of my Facebook. I will unfollow or unfriend you, but I will never make it's not a permanent decision unless I feel like you're really threatening me or something, or just pestering me to the point where I can't handle it. You know, that canceled idea where it's like, you're no good, you know, there should be a communication associated with it. If you're going to block or report somebody or anything like that, they should know what they did, you know,
Right.
because it isn't you, it's you. This whole interface is an interface, you know, it's not the same as allowing a person into your personal space. Whatever you post, you're responsible for, and many more people can see it than just your Facebook friends. No matter how much you limit it, other people are looking over other people's shoulders, so you can't forget that either.
You know, I like what you said about it's not permanent, because I think as in our evolution of our womanhood, you know, we go through our 20s and our 30s and beyond. Like as we get older, you know, we reflect on some of the patterns we had in the past. Some of them were not so mature, some of them were mature. And sometimes we rekindle our friendships with friends that we had a falling out with, and we get back in touch, and we have to apologize for our behavior. So I know recently I had to make amends with an old friend because there was a misunderstanding and I was a little immature, and so I reached out and I said, "I'm sorry for my stupidity. I was being totally unfair." And she apologized. She accepted my apology, and she said, "Forgiven." And we're friends now. And it's like when you say sincere, you take responsibility, you can turn your friendship around.
Amen. That's great. That actually is perfect for our next question, which is, what wisdom have you gained through life experience and or God's word on friendships? And just to add on to what you said, Erika, I think that, yeah, learning to apologize is so important. Even sometimes if you don't really think that the disagreement or falling out was your fault, you know, there are times that you can just say, "I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that you're hurting. I'm sorry that we can't see eye to eye," or whatever it is. But sometimes you just have to say, "I'm just really sorry I screwed this up, and I still love you." And, you know, and at times it doesn't fix anything, but if you don't have the maturity to just humble yourself in that way, you miss out. You have to make yourself, it's a vulnerable feeling, and nobody likes to be vulnerable like that. It's not that easy. It's a practiced thing for me to apologize. It does not come naturally to me, but I'm getting better at it, I hope, because I do it on purpose. Sevana, wisdom, God's word.
Yeah, I'm getting better with it too. I recently saw a post from a therapist that said, like, these are ways, like, not to apologize, like one of them was, "I'm sorry, but you're taking it the wrong way," because, you know, we each have, like, I've learned that we all, like, take things differently, and that's totally understandable. But the one I disagreed with was, "I'm sorry, but that's not what I meant," because, you know, when you meant to be like, you know, you meant one thing, it turns out to be a whole other thing. And also another thing I've learned from the past is, are my boundaries, my friendship boundaries. So, you know, so now I know when someone is actually being a good friend, or if someone's just trying to take advantage of me. You know, I have no room for toxic friendships anymore. I know when a friendship turns out to be toxic. So those are the kinds of people I avoid.
That's good. Flo?
I think, like, just to bounce a little bit further on what Sevana said, and then Erika, there's a comment you said before, and I totally want to expound on it, but toxicity, I agree with you, Sevana. I think when you start to come to realize your self-worth and, like, who you are and what you deserve, then you won't, you know what I mean? I don't even want to, maybe the word "put up with" is a little bit too strong, but you realize that, like, I think reciprocity, meaning that you will pour into those who pour into you. You'll choose to surround yourself with people who are going to pour life into you. That, you know, if you are in need, they, without a blink of an eye, will do whatever they need to do to help you out, right? When you expect family to do that, friends don't have to. But you start to realize who are true friends, what is real friendship love when you meet people, when you're down and out, who without the blink of an eye, they're like, "I got you." Like, wow, right? And just being yourself with them too. And Erika, you're mentioning, because I've met a lot of people who have been hurt, and because they've been hurt so much, they're like, almost like a porcupine, which is like soft and squishy on the inside, but like they grow bristles because they're like, nobody's hurting me again, right? And it makes sense because when you've been hurt so much, you're like, my heart can't handle any more hurt. But the downside with that is living a cold, isolated life, right? And the truth is, we human beings, we're meant to connect. We're meant to have relationship. You go to funerals, for example, and like the funerals that I've gone to, which are the most loving, amazing experiences, where it's a man or a woman who just touched and connected so many lives, created so much relationship and friendship that, you know what I mean? It impacted lives. So I've come to realize that we need connection. And I think for a lot of people who have been hurt, and I get how they're like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want people around me. I think it's getting to the point where you can discern who is a good person and also realizing your self-worth. So when you see people with certain patterns, people with certain red flags, you're like, not doing that anymore. It needs to be quality golden people. Last thing I'm going to give is that scripture. And I think it's in Proverbs. Don't cast your pearl before swine. I know it's hardcore. That's always stuck in my mind in the way that figure out who's your inner circle. Figure out those people who are worthy of your being able to like show your vulnerability, because they're not going to manipulate. They're not going to, you know what I mean, do something deceitful with it. They've got your back. Those are the people that you share your pearls with. The other people that can't be trusted, who haven't developed that trust, don't cast your pearls. Not that they're swine, but you get my point? So that's where I'm coming with that.
100%. Well, and the thing is, you can't, if you think about your life as a journey and walking down a road, really, you cannot have, and Jesus didn't have, a giant group of close friends. He had, people that traveled with him for a time. He had people that came to see him speak. But he had a few people that he could trust really deeply, that he would, take certain places with him, but he still spent time alone. And I don't know what his expectations were. I don't know how many times he had his heart broken, or was betrayed by his friends. Everybody has disappointments in their friendships. And I think every one of us has flaked out on a friend at some point, or, felt like they let somebody down, or, been totally aware that they just, I don't deserve to be this person's friend anymore. To be forgiven is a really priceless thing. To have someone, really open up the door. I had a friend in 8th grade to high school who we had drama with each other. This is my favorite piece of wisdom actually today, is to be reminded that every person in life, and I think I shouldn't say especially women, but we're talking about women today. They are creative by nature. And if they don't have a creative outlet, drama will come out somewhere else. And if they're especially gifted for performance, music and acting, because that's a big focus of my show. Usually performance is a big part of what a lot of my friends are involved in. You're going to see in Los Angeles, and even before that, I had friends that were really good actors. And most of them were lovely, sincere people. But some of them were really good at lying. Some of them were really good at faking me out. And it took a while to learn who the actors were. And for me, I still get fooled by people sometimes. It takes a while because I always believe that people have a good heart. I cannot really look at people in the eye and lie to them. That's just not how I'm built. And it'll torment me if I ever do it. So I don't understand that. I don't understand trying to deceive people and lead people along and make them believe that I'm their friend when I'm really not. Like, I don't play those games with people. But in Los Angeles, it's especially important to remember that everybody has a different gift, and not all of us are gifted in the same way. And some of us can really misuse our gifts. So we have to be really careful and be on your guard. And that's why, it's really terrible when you lose a friend or have to say no to someone. It's painful, but it's for the good of everybody, because that person can make other friends. And so can you. So you just say goodbye for a while.
Yeah, you can always make new friends.
Yeah. Um,
I was going to add real quick to what Flo said. There, Proverbs is my favorite chapter. There's this one, Proverbs 18:24. A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And I think having a good friend is like having a sister, somebody who you can count on to be there for you and want the best for you, and they're closer than family. And even sometimes my best friends have been family because, our family hopefully wants our best, wants our highest good, unless you have a messed up family. And, my family, at least I can speak for, they love me. So they want my best. And no matter how many friends have come and go, they've always been there, So that is one thing I will say is even family can be our friends too.
Amen. It's a wonderful gift when you feel like your family's always on your side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful gift. So anyone else want to add more to the wisdom in God's word question? Melinda, I believe, wrote this question, or was it you, Erica?
Which one?
The question 4 about wisdom in God's word.
That was hers.
Okay. Melinda, by the way, I've known for 15 or 16 years, and I'm really sad. I know she's really sad that she can't be with us today. And we're like sisters. We really, truly are. And we have arguments like sisters, but we've been through so much now that we know we've been through the fire.
Yeah.
We have a lot in common because we're both half Jewish. Both of our fathers were from Chicago. There are things that we discovered early on in our friendship, and then we both love musical theater. And we have been known to sing the duets from Wicked, the loathing duet, where we're like, I hate you, I secretly hate you. And it's helpful. It's fun for us because we never really hated each other, I don't think.
Mhm.
We always knew, but she called me out on it when she's like, you don't respect me. And I really had to deal with that, her hurt from feeling disrespected. I mean, that was a good long time ago, but I'm glad that she was just honest with me.
And she's a really sweet person. So, and I think when we're like, I can at least relate to you, Betsy, in the sense of like being a very opinionated person. And when you're around somebody that's very sweet, it's very easy to get in a misunderstanding because, people's feelings get hurt.
Yeah. Well, and I hopefully have become more of a sensitive, kind person than I probably was in some earlier years where I was more impatient. And Melinda has many talents that nobody even, probably some that I don't know about. But I mean, she's a brilliant writer. She's extremely funny. She has, there's so many things that we've done and talked about. I don't want to say anymore, but just all that to say, it's a pleasure to have friends that will stick with you that long. Since our first couple years in LA, she'd been there a little bit longer, I think. But, she welcomed me into her life and into her family who lived nearby, where my immediate family doesn't live in California. So.
That's really sweet. That's a good friend.
That is definitely a good friend. I want to expand a little bit further on what Erika had said about friends. When you find the right friends, they could be like sisters or brothers. And one of my closest friends in the world, she knows, because I say that she's like my sister from another mother, anyways, meaning
Sister from another mister.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
She honestly, there's certain things, and she says the same thing. She has sisters, I have sisters, and I love my sisters, but there's certain things that sometimes with sisters, right? But with her, oh my gosh, there's no TMI. We've said everything to each other, right? And so she is that sister. She's that person that if I try and address, she'll diplomatically be like, not the right color. She keeps it real with me, and I love it, right? So she is, and and sometimes when I do things, she's like, Flo, you could have done better. Or Flo, you really said that? I'm like, what's wrong with that? She's like, you shouldn't have said that. So she's like my sister, good friend who is like my sister. And I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I like, right. And so I love what you guys had mentioned with that. I completely agree. That's
Like
treasure.
I feel like a good friend is like those, you know, in those Hallmark Channel movies and the rom-coms, there's always like that best friend who's always like, ah, forget the guy. Like there's always like that like really supportive best friend. And I was just like, every girl needs a girl like that in her corner, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if there's a breakup or whatever, she's like, "Come on over. I've got the chocolate ice cream. I've got the munchies. We're gonna watch
Yeah.
some Hallmark movies. Forget about him. You can do better. We're gonna We're gonna do brunch. We're gonna go shopping. Got your back." Yeah, every girl needs that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we do. Ice cream is very important.
I'm wanting ice cream right now.
Dude, I've been eating so much sweets over the past week because, the holidays and my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Is it your birthday today?
No, my birthday was a couple days ago.
Hey, not that long ago.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
So was it the 31st?
yeah, New Year's Eve.
Wow, that's really
Ah.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I know. I mean, lately I haven't been really getting I don't really like have big parties or anything because I've realized my birthday is during the holidays and that's when like everybody has like other plans and such. But still, I feel like I like to think that like everyone celebrates the whole world celebrates my birthday.
That's awesome.
At least
And with
everybody on the
fireworks.
calendar.
And
Yeah.
a ball dropping, I mean.
Your
there's no
birthday's
bigger party.
famous.
That's right. There's no
Uh-huh.
bigger party than that. The
Yeah.
lights are flickering for your birthday
Mhm.
over here. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we got one more question. We've got 12 minutes left.
Wait, I really quick wanted
Yeah.
to say that when I was a little girl, I always wanted. Did everyone see Sailor Moon?
Mhm.
have
I
not
always
really
wanted
seen
that big group of girls like in Sailor Moon. That was like always my dream. Like I was like, oh, I want. Like I remember in my journal, I put like, oh, these are the friends I want when I get older. Like I want like a big group of gal friends, like in Sailor Moon.
Oh.
I never got that, but it was still cool though.
Yeah.
Like-
same
You're
here.
gonna have it. Don't worry. I don't know what those gals were like because I have not.
I think
watched
it's
it really
also
yet, but-
cultural to Japan. Like they naturally are very like they have like it seems a cultural thing, like where they have like a lot of friends. Like
Interesting.
they kind of have more groups. They hang out in groups. And I know like at least that hasn't been my experiences. I've always been like one-on-one or smaller groups, like one or two.
I think it can be cultivated. It's certainly not easy in the metro area where we live most of the time, or where I don't live in LA right now, but I might live again there someday. I still have groups that get together, but they're usually clubs, it's to do a specific thing, read books, watch movies, make movies, whatever, food. Flo and I met through a group that was a meetup group. I found them through Meetup.
Really? I didn't know you guys met that way.
Yeah, because I was looking for a Bible study of adults about my age, because I was going to a church where there were not very many people my age. And so I loved my church, but I also just wanted to have, meet more people. And I thought, I had to be intentional about seeking out that group. And that is also how I met Sevana's boyfriend and his brother. So, it worked out, but I don't get to see the groups like I used to. The group thing is not as easy as to manage for anybody as it
No,
used to be.
especially since COVID, I feel like a lot of our group friendships have decreased in their potency. I mean, I haven't had a group get together since 2020 New Year's. Not COVID 2020, but 2019 New Year's.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't really been at a big New Year's celebration since 2019. And 2021, once again, cases have gone up. So like the CDC recommended we stay home, and I was okay with that because at least I was around family, and I did the traditional champagne pop, and yeah, it was really nice. And then I just like went outside to get fresh air, and just to ring in the new year, and watching the rose parade the next day, like in your pajamas. That's it's really special.
Didn't I see you that same night earlier in the night, Savannah? Wasn't that that year?
Back in 2019? Yeah, when we went to the smokehouse.
When we were at the smokehouse.
Yeah.
And we'll do that again. We'll have a big party at the smokehouse, Savannah, for your birthday.
Yeah,
and you all are invited. Everybody is welcome whenever we can. Okay, there's nobody excluded.
Hopefully Christian's band will be able to perform.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
All right,
you,
so
Betsy.
yeah. So I will say the one piece of wisdom that kept coming back to me when I was reading these questions is something that one of my lovely roommates told me that she read in a book. And I cannot remember who the person is responsible, so I'm going to have to ask her later. I tried to find it for you, but it was written, do not mess with someone's ego, someone's money, or their spouse.
Ego, money, spouse.
And that is, honestly, I didn't ever think about it that way. I mean, obviously, you never would intentionally mess with any of those things if you have a good heart. But I really thought that was a great piece of wisdom, because you're going to have disagreements with people about things, but those are the kinds of things that really could damage a friendship. And that sort of leads us into our next question, which I did not intend to end on. So we'll end on a happier note, maybe. I only put it at the end because I wasn't sure if we would get to it or not, and we have time. If a friend lets you down one too many times, at what point would you decide to end the friendship, or is almost everything forgivable? Thoughts and feelings?
Depends on the situation.
I feel like almost anything is forgivable, except for if they have poor character. I feel like poor character is, you can't come back from that. Like it's a value mismatch. Like if you have different values than someone, like you're honest, they're dishonest, that's not going to work.
That's a good one.
Sorry, Betsy, for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
So I think we can always forgive, but I think wisdom is, remembering certain things. We can forgive, but if somebody has issues that they still need to deal with, meaning they're hurting and their cycles are going to hurt people around them, it's like the importance to have wisdom and boundaries, meaning I will pray for you and love you at a distance, but you're going to keep hurting me until you
Spot on.
Right?
I agree.
So it's almost like that proverb, Erika, book of Proverbs, like the dog who returns back to its own vomit. It's such a gross thing, but it's disgusting, but it's true. So it's almost, they say craziness or insanity is repeating and doing the same thing over and over again. So there's people out there, because they're hurting, they're going to hurt other people. And so you have to have boundaries. It's okay to forgive them, but you don't need to keep getting bitten or stung by them. So I think the intelligent thing is to, like, I'll love you at a distance, but you're not in the inner circle. I'm not going to keep allowing you to keep like piercing my heart. Do you know what I'm saying?
I agree. And I also would say too, like sometimes we're that source of pain. And sometimes I have to isolate myself on purpose for the protection of others, because I recognize I'm not a good person to hang out with right now. I need to take care of myself, and then I can have social time.
That's good. I think I've learned when if a door seems shut, I can sort of feel the pain. Pain is a really good indicator something's wrong. And repeated pain is when I start to feel like I'm just repeatedly, and it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter what I say, there is nothing that's bringing us to a peaceful place. Well, then obviously there's a big step back that needs to happen. Forgiveness is not optional, but sometimes it takes time. And it definitely doesn't mean that trust can be restored overnight. And that goes both ways. And, so yeah, I don't know if there's just one point, but there is definitely especially it's like, look, we talked about this, it's like, I don't understand. We agreed. I've had situations where I talk through and go, okay, but can we agree to do this in the future? And then I see that it's repeatedly not going to be fixed. Well, that's a respect issue that I don't have the time to fix. Oh my. Or energy to fix overnight, because it's now the other person's, as far as it depends on me. That's a scripture. I need to live at peace with everyone as long as it depends on me. And then when I've done everything that I can do, then I stop.
I like that, because you're holding your end of the bargain. You're taking responsibility for your side of things.
Trying. Sevana, thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm really I just want to say I'm really grateful for the longtime friendships that I've had, especially my friend Sarah, who I've known since preschool. There are times when we're going to fight and we're going to like disagree, but in the end, like everything comes back stronger, and we may have different interests, but we've to have stuck with her for this long is truly, I'm truly grateful for that, and I hope for many more years with those kinds of people, and also like friendships I've had in elementary school or high school or whatever, like those people that I don't see anymore, but still like I'm still follow them on social media. It's nice to like to stay in touch with those people.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Flo?
Real quick, I was going to
Yeah.
ask, what are like this? How do you think you would develop greater friendship skills? Like, if you feel like if you graded yourself as a friend, how do you think you could be a better friend this year?
Oh, that's so good. For me, I'm not sure about this year. I'm gonna have to pray about that one. But I will say, as far as learning new skills, I have taken classes. But I try to keep hanging around the people that I think have really good communication and relationship skills. And I learned from you. All of you have said really wonderful things, and have had really great, etiquette, and not just etiquette, but goodwill. Peace and goodwill in your hearts. And those are the kinds of people that will bring peace and goodwill wherever you go. And that's the kind of person that I aspire to be. So
I
like
actually took a class like right before COVID, right before the shutdown, like how to like improve my friendship skills. One of them was like communication. Instead of just shying away at parties, like just talk to the person next to you, and get to know them, and that helped me a lot. Like, even though I haven't been seeing as many people lately as I have in the past, I feel like that's a good key to making new friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Erica, that's a great question. I think for me it would be definitely improving or increasing more listening skills and giving more, because I think and especially like the people who have touched me the most, where I've come to realize they are good friends, doing more of what they've done to me. So again, it's coming back to what has really touched my heart, what has made me feel amazing and loved like a human being. Now, how can I give that back to others who,
I agree. Like when you have a good friend, it like inspires you and you want to be a good friend because
yeah,
of how much it made you feel so good. You're like, I want everyone else to feel this good.
yeah, right,
yeah,
right. So
that's a great note to end on. Yeah, I think my answer to your question, Erica, is I need to turn my phone off more often and give people my undivided attention more often. I've been working on it, but it could still be better. And I'd like to drive less, because driving stresses me out. I think I'd be a better friend if I spend less time driving, which I haven't had to do much in the last. I've had some vacation, and it's been such a blessing. All right. My
Oh, I
goodness.
also was going to make a humorous thing too. Is I think I could be a better friend because I need to get one of those headless, what is it, the earphones when I drive, because I can't tell you how many conversations where I could barely hear what my friend was saying because the car was so loud, and I was like, "Oh, I feel so bad." I'm like, I'm being such a crappy friend, but I need to get a better earpiece.
That won't hurt me either. All right. Well, getting our technology figured out. Thank you so much for everyone that has been watching. I see there's been at least 2 or 3 people watching us all the way through. I don't know if they're the same people or people leaving and coming back. I have no idea, but I hope you will leave us a comment. Flo, Erica, Sevana, thank you for being with us. Melinda and Eve, we missed you, but we hope you'll come back and be our guest soon, and we'll talk about female friendships
This was so
again.
fun. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you.
thank
Bye.
you.
Happy New Year.
Bye, guys. Happy New Year.
Bye.